Simplifying fractions part 2. This is just a little bit more practice for using the greatest common factor to simplify fractions to make it so that you end up with the simplest form in the least amount of steps. So, for example, here we've got write each fraction as in its simplest form. And, well, 8 and 12. What goes in 8 and 12? Well, if we wanted to, we could figure it out by doing prime factorization. Or if we know our multiplication tables, again, pretty easy. Divide both by 4. Well, divide both by 4, and you've got 2. You got 2 over 3. Now this one here, 9 over 10, what's going to be the greatest common factor? And we could break this down by dividing by 2 once. And if we did divide by 2 once, we would just end up with 4 over 6. And then we'd say to ourselves, is this the simplest form? No, it's not. And the same thing here. If we knew right off the bat that the greatest common factor is going to be 9, then we just would change this to 1 over 10. But we could divide both the top and bottom by 3, and then we'd end up with 3 over 30. And then we'd realize, well, 3 goes into both those and divide it. So here, what's the number that goes into both the top and the bottom? Well, we can go ahead and figure this out by doing our factor tree. And we got 8 times 9. It's going to be 3 and 3. This is going to be 2 and 4. And then 2 and 2. And what factors do they share? Well, they share 3 and 3. That's it, because if you look closely, well, 1, 3, and then another 3. Those are the only factors they share. So we can only use those. So that's going to be 3 times 3, which is 9. So divide both the top and bottom by 9. That's our greatest common factor, and we end up with 3 over 8. And there's no factors that those two share. Here, again, sometimes you just need to think to yourself, well, does the top number go into the bottom number? In this case here, yeah, it does. But we could go ahead and go through the long way, or sometimes it's just easier to say, well, does 30 go into 60? Yes, it does. You end up with 1/2. And you could go ahead and, like I said before, do this in steps. Well, I know it goes in, 10 goes in there. Then 3 over 6, I know that 3 goes into both those.